So I decided to take a break, to say no multitasking. And immediately I felt more peace. I even got some stuff done that I had been putting off because I had more time. I was obviously not consuming near as much information, but I noticed very strong feelings of loneliness and sadness. I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition. Welcome back to the Life in Transition podcast. This is the first solo episode in a while since the planning one in January, and I'm really excited about it. I did this wonderful and horrible experiment of zero multitasking, like nothing, no doing two things at once. So no listening to podcasts or books while I run, no talking on the phone in the car, no watching TV and eating dinner, no reading the Wall Street Journal while I'm eating, no continuing to work on emails after receiving a phone call from a client or a family member. And it was both great and horrible, this experiment. I did it for 1 week only, experiment for 1 week, and I saw a lot. I mean, immediately I felt a higher level of peace. I didn't have this problem solving, being on all the time feeling that I had. I mean, I would use every single little moment. I mean, 3 minutes between a meeting and I'd be listening to something. I was listening to books in the shower, or while I'm getting ready in the morning. I was, constantly, as soon as I'm in the car, I'm on the phone or listening to something, right up to the time when I go to bed, eating, watching SportsCenter or listening to a book. I was constantly doing more than one thing at once, except when I was meditating in the morning and evenings. So this was an experiment that I felt like I was starting to be driving too hard again, getting back in that go-go mode as I'm launching my business now. So I decided to take a break, to say no multitasking. And immediately I felt more peace. I even got some stuff done that I had been putting off because I had more time. I was obviously not consuming near as much information. But I noticed very strong feelings of loneliness and sadness. And I think that half the sadness was related to loneliness, and the other half was related to I was just feeling, and it's hard to say if it was exactly sadness or just feeling bad, feeling depressed even. And I think it was withdrawals. I'm so used to being busy. I'm so used to going all the time. I called a friend in my 12-step Workaholics Anonymous group and was talking to him about it. And he said, yeah, simply you're going through withdrawals. The third day in was super intense. And a couple of things I realized. One was just going through withdrawals. I was so used to not having the downtime, to not letting myself be bored, to not letting myself sit with the feelings, whatever they were coming up, except during my meditation times each day. And now I had that time, and it was a lot of different feelings coming up, and I wasn't just pushing them away or hiding from them with activity, which is my tendency. The loneliness I realized was because I do so much of my connection. I have so many wonderful family members that I'm close to and wonderful friends that I connect with primarily on the phone. And the only time I have to do that, quote unquote, is while I'm running or while I'm in the car. So without that, my social connection also dropped off dramatically. I still had a lot of, lunches and friend connection times, and some also around sports. I met my cousin to go hiking during this time. But even on the long drives, driving to the hike was about 1 hour and 45 minutes. No listening to anything in the car besides music. I could have background music, but no news, no books, no podcasts. And even I really wanted to talk to my son on the way back from the hike. And lo and behold, I stopped in a parking lot on the side of the road and then called him because I was not multitasking. It seemed almost incredible, but that's what I did when I really wanted to connect. So I'd only do one thing at a time. And it was a very tough week, but I also felt decompression. I felt my anxiety levels coming way down toward the end of that week. And lots of good things came out of that. This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Midlife Transition Mastery. If you have reached midlife and you are successful, you have checked all the boxes, you've done everything you thought you should do, and especially pleasing everybody else, doing what you think everyone else needs you to do, but you still feel like something's missing, like you're coming up empty, feeling alone, feeling misguided or lost, Midlife Transition Mastery Explorer community is for you. Here we will build authentic community. We will learn about the 8 steps to mastering midlife transition, and we will learn and execute living life with no regrets in our second half. Please check out the community on lifeintransition.online/MLTM, Midlife Transition Mastery. And I look forward to seeing you around the fire in this community. I'm going to start to go through some of those good things. I mean, I was present, really present with my life. I was present with my eating. I was present with my food. I was noticed when I'm hungry or when I'm full while eating. I would taste my food. And just from that, I lost 4 pounds also during that week. Just by paying attention. And I was eating cleanly as well because I was not eating mindlessly. I was thinking about what I really wanted and how it would affect my body, and then tasting it and enjoying it and chewing each bite, 20 times or so. So I lost 4 pounds. That was one thing I noticed right away. I noticed being much more present even in mundane things like brushing my teeth or being in the shower. And there's a certain quality of awareness and subtle joy just from being present in activities like that. It felt really good. I decompressed. I gave myself permission to not be on all the time. Those things felt really good. And that was, things that came out right away. Other things that came out of it that were really good was the space. One of my therapists, Dr. Hull, used to tell me a lot. He said, Art, you need to spend less time in problem solving, less time fixing, less time in productivity, and more time experiencing your life, more time enjoying your life. And this is what I noticed. All of a sudden, I had time to enjoy the music, to enjoy the weather, to enjoy the birds while I was running, to enjoy connecting with other people on the trail, to enjoy friendships, right? To be present with my life and experience my life than trying to accomplish something or get something else done. And that was really, really wonderful. And that continues to this day. So I have this higher level of peace. I went through intense sadness. I went through intense loneliness. And I also noticed great presence and great connection. And while cooking, I'm cooking and I'm paying attention to the smells and the sizzle of the pan. And I did a better job cooking. I did a better job being with the people that I was with. And maybe the biggest thing that surprised me was my energy returned. Since I've had chronic fatigue in 2020, since I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue and recovered from that, most afternoons, not all, but probably 60% of my afternoons, I feel a drag. I feel a tiredness in the afternoon. And I didn't feel that after the second half of that week. And I haven't again since then. And that's been really interesting. This thing about being on all the time, always feeling like I need to produce and always, learning or growing or doing something that has an ends that's not just a means. It's not just accepting and being present with the present moment. That's really draining. And I noticed my energy was much, much better. Even on days when I had really tough, hard, fast, long runs that normally wipe me out, I was not tired in the afternoons. So this was an amazing benefit as well. Lost weight, being present, and then having my energy coming back was really, that one was really surprising and really great. No brain fog, no afternoon quicksand feelings that I had many times before. Of course, I didn't consume near as much information. I had consumed almost no news, very, very few books, very few podcasts, very little. I really figured out that I also really enjoy reading for reading's sake. I love reading books, but I don't do it very often because I don't think I have time. But to actually sit in a chair, not laying in bed while I'm falling asleep or in the bathtub, but to sit in a chair just for the purpose of reading and just to read. Also really subtle pleasure in that. That was really wonderful. And I did that a few times during that week. So wonderful and horrible experience. What did I learn that I'm going to carry forward? And this is the big one. So the first one is sticking with mindful eating. My functional medicine doctor has been telling me that for close to a year. don't do any multitask while eating. Just pay attention to the food. And that I'm going to continue. So soft background music's okay. Talking to somebody else, face-to-face conversation with somebody that's physically having the lunch or dinner with me, okay. Nothing else going on. It's quite challenging if I'm eating lunch by myself at home one day. My strong tendency is to want to read something, to watch something, but no, just to make it enough to just eat and enjoy my food. So that I'm going to keep, and that's continuing to go, and I'm continuing to feel good and to continuing to lose weight. No TV, no phone, no reading, no podcasts, no talking to somebody on the phone, right? Just eating the food. Then I have decided that this breaks, this meditation, this silence, this presence is really good for me. It's too much to say I'm never going to talk on the phone or listen to a podcast or a book while I'm running or while I'm driving. But this is what I have decided to do. Two things in that area. First of all, if I haven't had any other silence yet that day, besides meditation, which I sometimes do in silence, and sometimes I'm listening to a guided meditation. So just to be clear, if I'm going out for a run first thing in the morning, or I'm jumping in a car and I haven't had any silent time yet, nothing gets turned on in my ears or on the radio, on the phone, until after 15 minutes of silence. So I just enjoy the activity, just drive, completely silent, or just run, completely silent. So I just have 15 minutes of silence before I get into anything else. The second thing I've decided to do there is to take a 5-minute pause before any other multitasking, anytime during the day. So if I'm in the car driving and I've already had the 15 minutes of silence and I'm jumping in the car and then I have that little hesitation of, it's some still time, some downtime here. And I think, let me call so-and-so, or let me continue listening to this book, or I have this impulse to take some action to fill the dead space, to just wait. I'm just taking a 5-minute pause. And that's been so powerful. Like what I've noticed, it's my habit to not be bored is to get on the phone. And it's usually productive stuff, but the pause is creating me to think about, okay, is this really an effective way to handle this? Am I just filling the time? Or is this an effective way to handle this? Does this work for the person on the other end of the phone that I'm calling? And I let it be, and I just pause and be present for 5 minutes. And then most of the time, a lot of the time, I've realized during that 5 minutes, I don't want to have my head clouded right now. I've only got 15 minutes until I'm meeting somebody else, for a meeting or for lunch. And I want to be present with that. I want to be aware of that and not sending my energy somewhere else. And I don't want to get in the middle of a conversation and then have to cut it off. So I think about those things. And a lot more often than not, probably half the time, I'm choosing to just leave the time silence in that scenario anyway. But in the car, in running, before I, have a thought, I need to call somebody, or I need to work on this, or I need to listen to this podcast, or I need to edit this while I'm running, or listen to this for editing, I pause for 5 minutes. This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Transition Mastery Coaching. If you have made it to midlife and you're successful and you are going through transitions in your life, in your business, in your career, or in your organization, and you are looking to master those transitions, to make the most of them, to accelerate into the next phase of your organization or your life. If you're facing challenges in your business, challenges in your relationship, challenges in your health, and you really want to transition those quickly, I'm here to guide you for that. And I look forward to working with you. And you can sign up for either Pinnacle Transition Coaching or Summit. Please go to lifeintransition.online/MLTM and scroll to see the Summit and Pinnacle Coaching, or reach out to me directly on my email, art@artblanchford.com. And I look forward to connecting with you and helping you to accelerate your transitions to achieve what it is that you want to achieve in the second half in your organization and in your life, so you can live your whole life with no regrets. Same thing's true for eating, right? If I have the feeling of, okay, I'm hungry, I want to go get something to eat. First of all, also with this multitasking means sitting at a table, no standing while eating, no anything else. I'm sitting down at a table with what I've served myself. But I also pause 5 minutes and just say, okay, am I really hungry? Or is this also just a distraction from something else that I'm feeling in my food? So that's working really well. And I really love that, the 15-minute breaks and the 5-minute pause. It gives me clarity. So finally, another big one where I'd multitask a lot that I don't like is when somebody calls me and I answer it and I'm still working on the email or still working on the spreadsheet or still doing something else. No, when I'm on the phone with you or with my son or anybody else, client, if I'm going to answer the call, I'm going to give that my full attention to the call. This is also hard to do, but I get to decide. If I want to answer the call, I'm going to be present with that person. And if not, I won't answer the call if I need to be present with what I'm doing. So that's another one that I'm continuing to do from this experiment with no multitasking for the week. So I think overall, it was a great experiment. And it sucked. It was much harder than I thought. Much more difficult, much more painful, much more lonely, but I also think much more benefit. And I've felt my emotions have been much steadier since then. And on average, more positive since then as well. I'm really proud of myself for sticking with it, even though there was many times where I wanted to jump out. I stuck with it. And I think the thought of thinking of it as an experiment, something I'm just doing for 1 week, gave me the courage to stick with it. And also I wanted to learn. And I knew if I didn't stick with it, then I wouldn't learn the opportunities that I had to learn from this. So I'm proud of myself for sticking with it. I'm really excited about continuing forward with these gaps in my day to experience life and not be doing two things at once, and especially having better impulse control by implementing this 5-minute pause. That's something that is going very well already as I continue down this path with the things that I have put in place. So being mindful, being present while eating, continuing that has a huge impact on health besides just the calories that you take in. And I'm really happy with the results and the things that I feel from that. And the people around me are also can tell when I'm giving them my full attention, which feels really good. So it's a big exhale, a big coming down, uncomfortable coming down, but really good to be down from this go, 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 always on mentality. And I've found that I am now also more productive with the things that matter most. Instead of going all the time and filling the space, I'm actually thinking about what is it that really is mine to do? What is it that is really valuable for me to do? And doing it in a way that I can do it once with my full attention instead of 2 or 3 times because I'm filling the gaps and filling the silence. So very interesting experiment. I highly recommend it. And I'm really curious to see what you learn and what you think as your life is going in transition. This is something that could bring a lot of clarity to what's going on. I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.